We are live out here on Neely Henry.
Out on Neely Henry.
We'll give it
lower end of the lake. Wasn't going to start. I pulled in a little bit short and I said, well, I'll just make a few casts. And the third cast I made, I caught a pretty good fish. We just stuck it in the live well. So he started a little bit early. We're going to talk a little bit about buzzbait fishing, what I do, some tweaks, different things, and then we'll get into the fishing. It's springtime, fish are spawning. I'll show you. I mean, I've only made like 6 casts now, but on the third cast, we did catch a fish. It's a good fish.
nice. What'd you catch that on?
Canterbury Pro Buzz, my buzzbait. We'll release that one. That's it.
Okay.
You know, it's springtime, and a lot of times I'm guilty for not slowing down, but you know, buzzbait's a great choice any time of the year. There's not a bad time of the year, long as, in my opinion, long as the water temp is over 52 degrees and warming that time of year. When it's, if it's 53, 54 and falling, buzzbait's usually not good, but if the water's warming up, when it gets 52, they will bite it.
All right, guys.
Bites can be really good, a lot of fun.
Let me come up here a little bit closer so I can get up there. We got about 24 folks that have jumped in. If you want to get set up, guys, as we've done the last couple of weeks, get a comment in, and that's going to enter you to win. We got some goodies to give away from NetBait. They've come through for us and going to give us some goodies to give away. We're giving away another Bass Boat Concepts step for any of you Skeeter owners. That's one of those products that you just kind of go, I wish I'd thought of that. Yeah. That's a good little addition to that, the already awesome steps on the Skeeters.
Yeah, the Skeeter comes with steps, but it's a handrail, keep you balanced, easy. Makes it a lot easier getting in and out of your boat.
And then the folks over at the Bass University, good friends of ours, have decided to give away a 1-year free subscription to Bass UTV, which especially in today's environment, sitting at home binge watching Bass U, probably a good way to get some fishing knowledge going.
It is. That's great. Yeah, I mean.
So we just need you guys to throw the comments in. Comment where you're from, where you're watching from, and certainly we're going to ask questions. We're out here for a couple hours with Scott. We're going to start off talking about some buzzbait fishing. And
about buzzbaits. I'm going to sit down and talk about them because I'm going to get a few things out, and some tweaks that can be done, different things.
Let me,
most time we'll talk for a few minutes. But
well, you guys drop the questions in there, and we will.
I'm sort of a buzzbait junkie, as you can see. I've got clacking ones. I've got, right hand, left hand that'll go off to the right, go off to the left. It's all about presentation, noise. I've got different ones for all different situations. I've even got real subtle little things. I think this is a toad toter, really good. But what I've won the most money on over my career in buzzbait fishing is a buzzbait with some sort of plastic on it. I love throwing, if I'm fishing for spots, it's always some sort of swim bait trailer on it. I designed a trailer back when we came out with this. This is a Dirty Jigs Canterbury Pro Buzz is all that is. A Dirty Jigs Canterbury Pro Buzz. That's a 1/4 ounce. I designed this head. I had a buddy of mine that's a machinist come help me out. But we used to all just glue whatever plastic you used up to the head and throw it. And it would come down, and it's hard to glue up because it was wet. But once you push your bait up over the way this is designed, when you push your bait all the way up over it, there's no glue, no anything. I've just caught that fish on that one. But it holds really good. You usually catch multiple fish without even having to glue it, without any problems. Put a toad on it, put a swim bait on it, a fluke style bait. I use a big spanky a lot, but there is situations when you still want to skirt. People ask me all the time, why do you use a plastic? Why would you not use a skirt? I've fished a buzzbait my whole life, and the most frustrating thing to me was when fish, especially spotted bass, well, largemouths too, but a lot of times fish hit a buzzbait so aggressively and so hard that they don't get it. They miss it. They blow it out of the water, they knock it sideways, and your hookup ratio is not, I mean, it's good, but it's not great. When we started putting plastics on them, that solid body, when a fish sucks a bait in, he actually has something to get, and the hookup ratio went up tremendously with people putting solid plastic bodies on a buzzbait. Helps your casting. I mean, that's a 1/4 ounce buzzbait, which you couldn't throw very good, but when you put a soft plastic on it, it adds a lot of weight to it, and also, I'll demonstrate a little bit, it skips really good. You can skip it up under boat docks, around pontoons, up under them, and just put it in places that you normally couldn't put a traditional buzzbait. If you got any questions about it, let me know. When I'm throwing a buzzbait and you want, you take one out of a package, which I have all different kinds, I mean tons of them. You take one out of a package and you want it to squeak. You can hear that one squeak really good. I can hear, I don't know if you can hear. It squeaks really, really good. One thing that you want to make sure is that your rivet is stationary. It's in place. A lot of them just slide them on. Your bait slides down. When your blade spins, your rivet spins. I'll take a pair of needle nose pliers all the time. If I get one out of the pack, and I'm going to pinch it down really good so that doesn't spin with my blade. You want to flatten that rivet out. The more space that makes contact with the blade, the more metal on metal you have, the better sound you have. I've done that to just about all of mine before I ever fished with them. A lot of people used to hang them out the window, tie them to the antenna, and just run up down the road, get them to sounding good. The more you, if it's a painted blade, you got paint in there. I mean, you scrape it off, or if not, you're gonna fish with it about a half a day before it really starts sounding good. When that paint gets wore off and it's metal on metal, you get that squeaking sound that you've been looking for the whole time. And sometimes you think, that the fish just turned on. But a lot of times it's something that happened to your bait, made it sound a little bit better, and you start getting a few more bites. So a buzzbait's great all day long. It's not something you have to throw in the morning. The first couple hours of morning time, late hours in the evening, it's low light conditions when fish are out and they're not tucked up in cover so much that it shines. But if you get a bite on a buzzbait from 10 to 2, you can put it in a box because it's going to be a big one. It's not one of those bank runners. If you keep it in your hand, it's something, like I said, you're not going to get a ton of bites. It's sort of like throwing a big swim bait or something. It's sort of addicting to me because I love seeing fish blow up. That fish, well, I mean, that was the third cast of the day. The fish just choked it, had that buzzbait all the way down, hooked it right on top of the mouth. So maybe we'll get another bite on it. It's springtime. I love throwing a buzzbait pre-spawn, but I know fish are spawning pretty hard. But those fish, that one there had already laid out. As they're finished their spawning, they're wanting to feed back up. It's great again. During the spawn, it's not so good. A lot of fish will boil and they show you themselves, and you can target that. So it's a good search bait. But I think when I met Dano 2008, he followed me at Smith Lake. I threw a buzzbait the whole entire tournament. Second tournament I ever fished as a pro, and I threw it from blast off to weigh in every day and finished second in that tournament. It's just a tool that everybody's got them, and they don't use them enough, I don't think. I mean, it's something you gotta keep in your hand. I wasn't getting a whole lot of bites in that tournament, but when you got bit in the middle of the day, it was one of those kicker fish that you needed. So, any questions, we'll answer them. But now we're gonna go to fishing.
We got while we're sitting here, we already had a question about why the red blade on the one you got tied on.
I like colored blades a lot when the water's stained up. The water's really stained here. I mean, there's no way I can sight fish today and see one. We've been getting so much rain in the south. Red is really good, I think, in the springtime. All the bright colors, to me, work really good in the springtime. Pink, yellow, methylates, your red buzzbait blades. I like red on the head. I see, I'm sure. I've got several. I know I do. several buzzbaits. We used to call them Coosa River Killers. Just like a white buzzbait with a red head. It's a target. It's a, you know, it's just like a crankbait. When you're throwing a crankbait, I like a contrast of colors, like a chartreuse and black, a white and black. And that flash, that contrast of colors, you know, gives the fish something to target on. Sort of like a black, I'm throwing a black toad on there right now with a red blade on it. So, you know, it's just giving some that little contrast with the dirty water. If the water's clean, I'm definitely throwing a black blade or a silver blade. Finished second last year at Winyah Bay and had some really big fish. I caught those on a black bladed, black toad buzzbait, 1/4 ounce. We have a quarter. When I designed this bait, we designed it, and now we have a 1/4, 3/8, and a half. 3/8 is becoming my favorite. That may be a 3/8. No, it's a 1/4. But you can see the difference here. I'll get a half out and a 1/4. You see the difference in the lead. Still, your bait would go all the way up. We were the very first ones that designed a bait for, a buzzbait for a plastic. There's a lot of them out there now. A lot of them, I mean, got on that bandwagon, but Dirty Jigs was the first one out there, and I had a machinist buddy of mine design that for me, or help me make that. The hardest thing was getting the right hook. And if you go buy some, I'm not going to name any, if you go buy some now, they'll come with a swim bait or something. And if you try to put a toad on it, the hook is so long that it'll stick out and hang way back here between the feet of a toad. And when you try to skip it or something, those feet are going to hook up on the hook a lot, and it's not going to be efficient for your casting. I mean, your hookup ratio may be good, but we don't have any problem with this. I've won lots of money with that. I mean, 6 figures, well over 6 figures with that bait right there. But that's a short, I want to say that's a 3/0 short shank hook. Never had one flex out, bend or anything. I'm throwing it on 50-pound braid. That's a 7.6 extra medium heavy rod, 7.3 to 1 reel. And, you know, I've never had any problem. I love throwing it on a 7.6 for casting distance. When I'm doing more skipping, more real tight under bushes, under docks, when fish get situated or positioned under docks and stuff, a lot of times I'll go to a 7.3. This is my swim jig rod. It's the Scott Canterbury new Halo Scott Canterbury series 7.6 extra medium heavy. We designed these rods all year last year, mainly in the fall, and they've come out. They just started arriving at stores in the last week, selling really good. We got them all the way from a 6.10 up to a 7.6, something you need to check out.
Well, let's get to some fishing.
Yeah.
Guys, that's some good stuff on buzzbaits right there. And I'm sorry that you guys missed the first catch of the day.
That toad makes it so much easier, like where you can skip it. I mean, I'm throwing it 10 foot past that dock up under it. There's not a skirted buzzbait that you can throw and do that. Now, some people that are the great casters can get it under there and may skip it a little bit, but that toad will just help that bait slide across the top of the water. I mean, you can see it skipped 20 foot.
You want to show me that again?
I hit the post, but yeah. If you get just right here, it just went 10 foot past that step, coming back. And you know, summertime when fish are really aggressive, I really think that is going to get you 2 or 3 extra bites a day. One thing I've noticed over the years in the Forest Wood Cups, I finished second catching them on a buzzbait. A lot of my fish, when I'm skipping a bait, will come as soon as that handle turns. Big bass. So if you can skip that bait 10 or 15 foot, as it goes past the fish, this is my 100% my thoughts, and I think it's 100% true. You're skipping that bait really fast under a dock or something, a fish is going to turn to chase it. When he turns to chase it, and all of a sudden it's coming back at him, he can't help but eat it. If he don't want to eat it, he's got to eat it. He's got to bite it on the instinct. I mean, he's going to be chasing it, and all of a sudden it's coming back at him. He's going to be in defensive mode then to try to eat it. So I think that gets you a lot of extra bites.
All right, we got a question. Do you prefer a clacker?
I do at times. I don't prefer it. I've had situations when I caught them on it really good. Real windy situations, I'll throw it a lot. Or real muddy water, muddy warm water, or real windy situations, I throw it a loud clacking buzzbait. But most of the time I don't. I think as much pressure as we have nowadays on lakes and that subtleness, I think, gets a few more bites than you do with something that's real loud and clacking.
Okay. So we got a bunch of folks that have joined us in the last few minutes. We are out here on Neely Henry. Can you give me what's the water temperature right now?
Water temp is 63 degrees.
60.
Been warmer a couple of weeks ago, but man, we've had a lot of cool nights and some cool rain, sort of cooled the water back down. And most of the time, by this time of year, I think fish would almost be done spawning, and a lot of them are done, and there would be a great shad spawn going on. But that shad spawn, I know, I haven't fished Neely Henry, but I've been fishing Logan and Lay, and the shad spawn really got started at Lay a couple of weeks ago, and then it just fell back off as the water cooled down. They just quit. So I'm excited for that to come around here in the next week or two, because we're fixing to have some good warm weather. And there's a lot of fish. That was a subtle bite there. But there's a lot of fish up there that are, I mean, not hitting moving baits. I've been wanting to swim a jig, and it's tough. I'm gonna put a new plastic on. There's two on that one. But you know, when fish are spawning, if you're I mean, everybody's done a little bit of sight fishing before, and even when you see one, you see a fish on the bed, you can pitch at him for 20 minutes sometimes, and finally, you know, get him to bite, or, you know, you have to aggravate them into it. So moving baits are not always the best during the spawn. I'm as guilty as anybody of not slowing down. So the last few times I've been really trying to slow down, pick things apart, and you know, I used to fish a lot slower, but started traveling all over the country, and when you show up at a lake that you've never been on and you don't know much about it, you can't just start fishing slow, and usually you can't fish slow and find them. You got to cover so much water that I get into a habit of fishing fast, and fishing back around home all spring, I've slowed down a little bit more, and I think I know it's been helping me here. So we're gonna catch some pitching plastics at the edge of grass today. Hopefully we'll catch some, maybe even a little wacky worm. I mean, the water is down because of all the rain we've had. People that don't know much about Neely Henry, if I was mid-lake or up, whoa, that looked like a good one and I missed it. But if I was mid-lake,
but you didn't get me, and that's what's important.
If I was mid-lake or up, the lake would be normal. But being down on this lower end, we have a real sharp bend in the river they call Minnesota Bend, and it creates like a natural dam. It backs the water up. When they got floodgates open on the lower end, they can suck it down on this lower end, and the water doesn't make it through that bend enough. So it's sort of a weird situation. From 77 up, the water will be normal when you get up above gas, and it can be flooded, and down here can be 3 or 4 foot low. It's real finicky on down here, but when it's down, I think those fish pull out to the edge of the grass, usually around a little deeper grass, and they feel a little safer. So we're not getting, like I said, I'm not being able to get that many swim jig bites. The buzz bait is working better than swim jig, but we're gonna probably have to slow down and catch a few pitching plastics as well.
All right. So I'm gonna beat somebody before they ask. What'd you just pick up? What'd you swap up to?
A Wacky rig. I got one rigged up just to fish real slow in the grass. This is actually, let's see. Yeah, this one is actually a salt lick. It's just a stick worm, sort of like a same thing, Cinco. It's a stick bait style. Net bait, we used to sell them a long time ago as a salt lick, and they discontinued them. Well, everybody that watched the St. Johns River this year, I was throwing a salt lick again. We poured them. We're actually pouring a lot of colors that the pro staff is wanting, and this is still a prototype because we're working on different formulas as far as getting the sink rate down. The one I was throwing in Florida did not have salt in it. It was a saltless salt lick, basically. It was a stick worm with no salt, would float. It'd float that hook if I threw it Wacky style. So I was flipping it though, and I'd rather have it with no salt. It would sort of stand up a lot better with no salt than lay down in those pads and stuff I was catching fish in down there.
So what's your rod and reel setup with that Wacky rig?
Wacky
Got a question about that.
Another Canterbury Signature Series Halo, but this is a 7-foot medium heavy. Probably the most versatile rod in any lineup of rods there is. This is a really light rod, got a good tip on it, and with that Wacky rig, I'm throwing it on 12-pound P-line well, it may be 15. It's either 12 or 15 P-line fluorocarbon, tactical fluorocarbon, and I've had a lot of success throwing that or really light jigs, anything like that on that 7-foot medium heavy rod. A lot of people will throw one on a spinning rod, but I'd rather have a little bit of backbone in my hand, especially on Neely Henry. We got some big fish on the Coosa River. We catch big ones on a spinning rod too, but I'd rather have a bait caster in my hand.
Well, we're getting a bunch of comments about interesting that the bait caster versus the spinning rod. So
yeah, we do have a spinning rod out with my Signature Series rods too, and it's a 610. And I've caught a lot of fish on it. For the style of fishing I'm doing, I really like the bait caster. I mean, that's a 6-inch bait. It's a heavy bait. It's not a 5-inch Wacky worm. And there's just not any fish like positioned, setting up under boat docks right now. They will be later in the year, but as this time of year when fish are spawning, they're just not really, they'll spawn around those docks, but they're not positioned up under them.
all right, guys, jump on in there with your questions, comments. We're going to pick some winners out of the comments, and please share. Share the feed. That's how you're going to get entered in to win some stuff. And we are working on some better mic setups for doing these. I've gotten some feedback, but we're doing our best out here. We're just having some fun in these weird times.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the weird times, and this is stuff that we've never faced. I mean, I want things to get back to normal. I think it's going to be a little bit of a new normal, but it's been okay. I mean, for me, it's been okay. I hope it has for everybody. I've been at home throughout the spring, and I want to get back to fishing. I want to get back to fishing tournaments because that's what I do. But I've got to spend a lot of good quality time with my family. My wife's having to work from home. My daughter's got to go out and fish with me a lot. I've got to spend a lot of time in outdoors. It's a great time if you're at home and you're not able to work or you're working from home. That social distancing is great. It's a great time to be out on the water. Be out enjoying the outdoors. Turkey hunting if you turkey hunt. It's just, you got to take advantage of these times and do it the right way. Be safe about it. I went through all the hand sanitizer I can throughout this time if you get around people. But, we haven't gotten in big groups, and I miss that because I'm a guy that likes to host parties and have people over and cook for a bunch of people, and I haven't been able to do that, but I have enjoyed the outdoors, and it's been we've made the best of it. Bass made a big push. Live smart, fish smart, and it's all about doing things the right way.
All right.
And social distancing, and I've carried gloves to get gas, and I might look silly, but I've been wearing gloves every time I get a gas pump, and it's a little bit different, and I want things to get back to normal, but I'm afraid that it may be a different normal than what we're used to in the past.
All right. Well, thumbs up for getting the Elite Series back up and running, and getting you guys out fishing some tournaments, because I know that's what everybody wants to see.
It is.
So
I think it's going to be okay. We're going to fish all of our tournaments. I mean, I'm excited about it. A lot of people, fishing's usually over in August or September. We're going to fish on into the fall, September, October, May fish in December. I mean, it's going to be exciting for the fans this year. We're going to have some stuff to look forward to in the fall, early winter, as far as keeping up with fishing. Bassmasters.
all right. We got one question. Water temperature check again. What?
Yeah, we're about 63.
63.
60. I've seen 62 something up to about 64. So 63 degrees. It's been warmer, but it's cooled back off a little bit.
Well, if somebody wants to throw that in the comments, that'd be awesome. I know we'll have that question a few more times. And while we're hauling on this trolling motor, I think it's a great opportunity, because I know I'm having a lot of folks stopping by the dealership asking about that new Ghost trolling motor from Lowrance. Are you liking that thing?
Man, I am really liking it. I was one of the ones that every time Lowrance comes out with something new, I'm always on board. They talked about coming out with a trolling motor, and I was sort of skeptical, to tell you the truth. I mean, I was a little bit skeptical, but to see what they put them through before we ever get to do it, man, I jumped all over the opportunity, and I've really loved it. I've showed a bunch of people you can go 3.5, 3.6 miles an hour with the trolling motor. I've got to where when I'm fishing, instead of idling up to a place, I'm a lot stealthier now. I mean, I'll stop an extra 30 or 40, maybe 30 yards out, and just buzz right in there with the trolling motor. I think it's gonna make a difference and catch a few more fish throughout the year. It's a really quiet motor. The head doesn't turn like some of the other ones with electric steering, but it's really quiet, fast, brushless motor. I run Lithium Pros batteries, and you can stand on it on 100 all day. It's so much more efficient with that brushless motor. You don't have to worry about burning your batteries up.
All right, so I'm gonna get through some questions, because we got a few of them in here. What retrieve does he mostly use for buzzbaits?
7.3 to 1.
7.3 to 1.
That's an Ardent Grand, Apex Grand 7.3 to 1. That's the reel that I throw on buzzbaits, swimming a jig. That's my favorite reel. I mean, we got an 8.0, we've got 6.5s, and I use a 6.5 a lot, and I use the 8.0 some, but the 7.3 is my favorite all-around reel. I can slow it down when I need to, I can speed it up when I need to.
So I'm noticing you're casting pretty close into shore. Are you retrieving all the way back to the boat with that buzzbait?
I am, but I mean, we've had 3 bites, and all 3's been around some sparse grass.
Okay.
And there's no, I mean, I would know if I was in a tournament. I'm trying to talk, but if I was in a tournament, I'd have fished that grass. I'd crank up and run to the next one up here a couple hundred yards. But
okay.
I'm just gonna buzz really fast. I'm gonna try to keep it wet in between there, but I'm gonna key on grass is what I'm gonna key on.
So we have a question about, do you pick between old docks and new docks? But along what you just said, it looks like we're kind of bypassing some docks. You're already narrowing it down, right?
Well, it is. I mean, dock fishing is, I sort of cut my teeth dock fishing on the Coosa, especially on Logan Martin, and it's my favorite thing in the world, or one of my favorite ways to catch them. And you know, a lot of people skip new docks. Old docks tend to be, you know, the best. They usually have a lot more structure around them, seems like. But I've won tournaments off of docks that have been built in the last, you know, month or so. I mean, when it's like May, June, and those fish are really a long post-spawn, and they're trying to heal up, they're looking for shade, and it don't matter to them if it's a new or an old one. So I don't pass any of them.
All right, looks like Palmetto Creek.
This is Palmetto Creek here.
We're up here or down here, I guess, on Neely Henry.
Yeah, I mean,
you local guys, y'all can figure out where we are.
Yeah, I just fish. You know, I usually go to canoe because it's the closest to my house. If I come to Neely Henry, I go to canoe, and we put in a canoe. We're gonna fish in here. I mean, they threw me a little bit of a curveball. Talked about trying not to run around so we could keep viewers' interest and not lose people. So I said, man, I don't know where I can fish for 2 hours at one spot, but I really want to fish out in canoe. When we do make a move, guys, stay with us. It's gonna be a 3 or 4 minute run, and we're gonna catch them. We're gonna catch a couple of good ones out in canoe.
All right. So, question about: do you prefer braid over fluorocarbon, and why?
I use braid all the time on a buzzbait. My rod this is a rod I built for swim jigs, 7.6, but a 7.3 is the same thing, a really soft tip. And I use braid because I'm making long casts sometimes. It seems to come off the reel easier if I'm trying to skip it. It gives me a distance skipping. And the hookups, when fish bites a long ways off, I got no stretch in braid. And hookups are better. I really like it. Anytime I'm fishing vegetation with a beefy rod or a beefy hook, it's on braid. Like if I'm flipping grass, it's on braid. If I'm throwing a buzzbait or a swim jig, it's always on braid. My Wacky rig setup that we have is on fluorocarbon.
All right. How do you approach spring cold fronts? Do you look for fish to push out a little deeper or to hold tight to the shallow cover?
You know, once fish commit, if the water got up to 60 degrees or any better, and they committed and made a move shallow, they're gonna stay, in my opinion. They don't always bite during a cold front, but they're gonna stay. If you can go pre-front, as that front's approaching, it's some of the best days you can have. But when you're post-front is when it's tough. The bites get a little tougher post-front, and you know, a lot of times they might pull, if I'm fishing grass and it comes out there to 3 foot deep, if there's a little bit of a drop, 1 or 2 foot within, you know, right there around it, a lot of times they might set out right outside of it. But I don't think that the fish go back out to their winter stuff when a cold front hits ever. I mean, I'm gonna stay shallow. And it's just not like a super steady retrieve with that buzzbait always. I mean, as you can see, if I get around some grass or something, I'm gonna twitch it, put a little tweak in it, speed it up, slow it down. A lot of times, if I come over a piece of wood or something, I'll just kill it and let it fall. And that's when you get a bite. So it's not just like a super steady retrieve. That grass looks pretty good.
So what'd you just pick up? Back to the wacky worm.
We're gonna go from the wacky worm to a little crawl creature style bait, pitching around on a real lightweight. I've been catching a lot of fish, Coosa River, even Smith Lake. I've done a lot of sight fishing with it. It's the Pocket Slim, but it's a new colors they got come out with flared tips. It's different color tips on all of them. We have a Coosa flare, Sungill flare, have a lot of different ones, Alabama crawl flare, and I've been pitching it around a good bit up in the grass. Got a 3.5, which is my favorite, but I've got a 4 as well, so that, you know, I'll pitch it around some too. We're a lot of these fish are spawning, like we talked about earlier, and you can't see them. I mean, the water's dirty. It's fell this week because of the rain, and I talked about why it falls on this lower end. and the fish get real skittish. So if the water was cleaner or if it was up, I mean, I would just be up there right in the grass flipping. But a lot of those fish are set on that outside edge where they feel a little safer because they got a little bit of water and stuff. So they're gonna feel a little bit safer right now with that water being down about a foot, maybe a little over a foot, really.
All right, we got a classic fishing question.
All right.
If you could have only one bait in the boat, what would it be and why?
A jig, a 1/2 ounce Canterbury dirty jigs, 1/2 ounce Canterbury flipping jig. Just, I mean, if I could only have one, that's what it would be, because it's the most versatile bait you can possibly have. I mean, oh, we got my dang one. I can't believe that on a Wacky one. It's really, you can fish it, you know, you can fish a jig from anywhere from a foot, or you can fish it on top. I mean, we swim a jig a bunch. You can fish it from a foot to dang 30 foot deep, and that's the best thing about a jig, is it's how versatile it is. It don't matter if you're fishing up in a foot of water or you're fishing 30 foot deep, you can cast that jig 1/2 ounce. If I was definitely going to fish shallow, I'd probably go to a 3/8, but if I just had one, it'd be a 1/2 ounce. Black and blue. Can't believe that. You ain't supposed to miss them on that. Probably spawning. I found one. A lot of boats in here too. Well,
So how you working that Wacky?
you know, I'm just popping it along as you. I'm using a 6-inch bait, so it sinks pretty fast, and we're in less than 2 foot of water. So you want to pull it up and let it fall. A lot of times I'll pull it up to where it's visible, especially if I'm coming around some grass or something. Pull it up over it, and you'll see a fish boil on it. But I try to let it always go back down to the bottom. I should have caught that fish. Probably spawning there. I mean, I don't know that, but I came right through there on that buzzbait a while ago. And we're having, I've seen 3 other boats, so fishing behind people, you really have to, a lot of times, slow down. Hard to do for me. One more time.
Well, one thing, Dano, that we didn't talk about before we went live is whether that fish catch counts.
I told you we should start.
So
Give them an extra hour and our batteries won't last. We'd go live all day if we keep a few people watching.
Well, I appreciate, we got about 130 folks on here right now, so I appreciate you guys spending some time with us. Love to know what you guys are up to. The last couple of weeks we've had a lot of folks sitting at work watching us fish, so glad to see some folks are able to get out there and work. I know there's a few folks that I've talked to this morning that are out fishing themselves.
Well, this corona has been tough on the fish population in Alabama. Crappie fishing, I was doing a lot of crappie fishing. There'd be a boat on every brush pile, you know. It's been good for a lot of people to get out and enjoy the outdoors, but we all do want to get back to work and get back to normal.
Yep. So for those of you that may not have come in the beginning, We are looking for comments. Likes and shares going to enter you and win. We've got some goodies to give away. I know Dano's been dropping what all we're going to be giving away, but we're at least picking 3 or 4 folks out of the comments today. This has been a lot of fun to do. Let me get back to some questions. What size braid do you use with a spook?
You know, I mean, a spook or walking bait is something that still up in the air about. I throw braid on it a lot of times, but I always tie a leader on a spook just to keep that front hook from coming around and hooking your bait, hooking your line. You want something small diameter so you can cast a long ways with a walking bait. I've been using 30 or 40 pound test. Buzzbait, I use 40 or 50 depending on what I'm fishing. Swim jig, I'm always using 50 or 60. So it's because of the vegetation or where I'm fishing, it is a lot thicker and it's harder to get them out. So you got to do a lot with that. It doesn't really affect any of the bites you get or anything. It has more to do with your casting and your presentation than anything.
All right. Go-to bait for shad spawn around haygrass.
Man, I've got several. I mean, it would be a white swim jig would be my go-to for number 1. But I did a little video a little bit last week. I'll try to put it up tonight. I didn't catch a whole lot, but I was trying to catch a shad spawn and it sort of died out. Everything I'm going to have is white, spinnerbait, swim jig, a walking bait in case they're schooling on the outside edge, a chatterbait is a one bait if you can get a little more sparse vegetation, and you know, like a fluke or something like that would be really good. But a swim jig is my go-to anytime shad spawn. It don't matter if they're on docks or on haygrass or in lily pads, whatever it is. It's a 3/8. A lot of times I'll go to a 1/4 ounce because the fish are feeding on top. A lot of times I'll go to a 1/4 ounce white swim jig, little kicking bee trailer from net bait, and that, if you can keep that bait up, that flat bottom of that kicking bee helps you keep the bait up, and it just disturbs the water just like a few little shad spawning. So it's been a great bait. We're gonna have to skip around.
All right. Well, we'll do a quick recap because we got a question that's favorite style buzzbait, single blade, double, add a trailer, trailer hook. Somebody calling to give you a tip?
No. Probably wanting to know how I'm catching.
Well, they need to tune in and learn a few things.
That's David George. Somebody needs to call him and tell him to tune in, where he don't mess with me while I'm fishing.
So let's do a quick recap. What's the buzzbait we did a good piece, guys. When this is over, the questions about the buzzbaits and all that kind of stuff, Scott did a great little show and tell there at the beginning of this video, so you can go back and watch all of that. But real quick, what are we throwing right now?
It's a 1/4 ounce Canterbury Pro Buzz from Dirty Jigs Tackle. The question was, what's my favorite buzzbait? That's probably my favorite one. I got a half in it and covering more water, but that 1/4 ounce allows you presentation a lot better. It's a little more subtle, and that's the one. That's my go-to. I don't throw many double blades. I do have some inline double blades that keep it running straight and it churns the water. We got a left hand and right hand on the wire. It's just a total different sound than that you get from that.
So we did have a question earlier about the left versus right. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, you know, if you get a lunker lure out of the pack, it's a right hand buzzbait. They hitting that buzzbait? There you go. Who did? Oh, okay, awesome, yeah. Tell him I said hi when you see him. If you're fishing, it comes into play a lot in the fall. Fishing bluffs and boat docks, the shady side. A lot of times I'll have a left-handed bait and a right-handed bait laid out at the same time, same setup. A right-hand lunker lure, you can't tune them enough. They're going to go to the right all the time. So if you throw it down the left side of a dock, it'll get up under it, hit the pole, get up under it, hit the pole, or it'll clack right down a rocky bluff. You can keep it within 6 inches, 5 inches of the bluff. If you're throwing it on the left hand, if you're throwing it off of the left side on a bluff with a lunker lure and you landed dead on the bluff, by the time you got halfway back to the boat, it's 5 or 6 foot away from the wall, and you left the strike zone. You're not being efficient with your time, and you're not keeping it in that strike zone as long as you could if you had a left-handed bait. So if you get a left-handed blade that runs to the left, which is not a lunker lure, like the old style Booger Man was exactly a straight running bait. They're all different, and you know, I like them to run left or right, but I also like a straight one. 99%, you can get a toad or a big spanky or something on the Dirty Jigs bait. You can get it threaded on there perfectly straight. It's going to run straight. So, but it's good to have those left and rights at certain times, certain situations. You want that. We're fishing behind so many people. I don't know if we're gonna move around, but
all right.
I want to catch one more in here.
Will you be fishing the open on Neely?
I am. I'm registered for it. I don't know. I mean, right now it's still on for 3rd week of May. So I am in that tournament.
What's his idea of shallow?
I fished a deal with Alabama Bass Trail this week at Weiss, and I fished shallow, but I didn't realize that I wasn't shallow enough until we fished from 8 to 1. And I don't fish Weiss much, but I thought I was fishing shallow, but at 12:50 I had to raise my big motor. My boat was in about 1.5 foot of water. I left a mud trail for about 40 yards, and I broke off a 5-pounder behind the grass. I mean, as far to the bank as you could throw. So, you know, I like fishing shallow. Most of the time, if I'm on the Coosa River, I can take my rod and touch bottom right there where we're 4 foot. My graph, well, it says 4'6", so yeah, we're 4 foot deep, and but I'm fishing a lot shallower. We'll get back in these pockets, and it'll be 1.5 foot where the boat is.
But one comment of loving a woman for her looks and not her personality, that's truly shallow. So nice reply there, guys. Throwing any weight on the Wacky?
No weight. I mean, like I said, we're throwing a 6-inch salt lick. And being a 6-inch bait, like if you're wacky worming a trick worm or something that doesn't have any weight to it, you know, I add, you know, a tungsten nail weight. But being a 6-inch bait and we're fishing it in less than 2 foot of water, you know, it sinks. That bait sinks 1 foot a second anyhow, so we don't have to worry about adding weight to it.
What hook are you using with that Wacky rig?
This is a little 3/0. I prefer, if I'm fishing a Wacky rig around anything except grass, I prefer a 1/0 straight shank Gamakatsu hook. Just a straight shank 1/0 Gamakatsu hook up. If I'm around docks or anything, that's what I'm doing. But around grass, it just stays hung so much. This one has a little bitty fiber weed guard on it. I don't even know exactly who makes it. I've got 4 or 5 different brands, and I mean, it's a really good hookup ratio with it too. I don't know, I missed one while ago, but we'll get some opportunity to keep it in my hand. And I had thought about it. Throw him under the bus. Matt Herring called me yesterday. We were talking about elite stuff, but I was really just thinking about doing a deal on pitching a jig on rocks for spots in the current. Because I love current fishing. That's how I learned to fish, and I think I can catch them doing that. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I think I could catch some spots doing that, and I was going to show something different. I let Matt talk me out of it yesterday, but I'll catch a few doing this. It'll be all right. The grass is really, really, I mean, this is I don't even know, what's today's date? May the 1st or 2nd, something like that?
We're still April 24th.
April 24th? I don't know why I was thinking May. The grass up here really doesn't start growing real good until mid-May. So it's super sparse right now. There's not a whole lot of grass, or I'd be swimming a jig. Get further up the river, and there's a little more grass. It's better for swimming a jig and stuff up there than it is down here. A little bitty guy. That might have been what got me earlier too. Little bitty guy. But he was fun too. I like them all. It's hard for me to, we went talked about it earlier, I mean, to slow down. Over the years, I've gotten faster and faster, and I used to fish really slow. Pitch a Cinco around, a soft plastics to the edge of grass and fish super slow like that, but I've got to where I like to fish a little too fast. I mean, we're just fishing right behind boats.
Well, we along for the ride, so we'll go where you go.
That's right. I'm gonna fish in here for another 15 minutes, and then we'll spend the rest of the time out in canoe. I can move around out there and get away from people.
So, question of how do you differentiate what type of topwater to throw and when?
You know, mainly by the forage that they're feeding on, what species you're fishing for, and the structure that they're in. Like if I'm fishing topwater at Logan Martin for spots, I'm gonna throw a walking style bait. I mean, everybody calls it a spook. That's what bait I'm gonna be throwing, like a Bagley knocker bait. It's the same thing. It's made by Bagley. It walks really good, and I'm gonna be throwing some sort of walking bait if I'm fishing topwater for spots on the Coosa River, on points, seawalls, flats, anything where they spawn, anything where they're feeding first thing in the morning. That's what I'm gonna be doing. Fishing grass, you either got to fish. I mean, I've got a frog tied on, that's a scum frog, launcher series frog. If you get around some thick stuff, I'm gonna throw that frog, or a buzzbait, which I can cover a whole lot of water with, and one reason I like fishing it. I love fishing all topwaters, and then if I'm fishing around wood or boat docks, I mean, I will throw that buzzbait around it too, but a lot of times during the spring, as soon as fish are garden fry, postpone, another bait like a popar and stuff like that it excels that time of year. In May, a popar excels.
All right, I think I got a good question. Who on the trail would you have as a partner for a team event and why? Side of the elite.
That's a good one. I mean, I've got a lot. I mean, I fish a lot of tournaments with Wes Logan, and because it's actually, I mean, we're here, we're buddies. I mean, and I know he can catch them. I mean, we won a tournament here last year, and it's the only tournament, I mean, I can't even think, but I didn't weigh a fish in. We won the tournament, I got half the money, but they were all Wes's. And so I fished with him a lot, but there's a lot of guys. I mean, Jay Ellis has been my roommate and mentor since I started professionally. I'd love to fish tournaments with him. Matt Aries, my roommate, and 100, I mean, we're truthful, 100% truthful to me, and he's a great fisherman. He can figure them out as fast as anybody there is, so I'd love to fish some tournaments with him. I try to learn from him. Sir? What did he say? I didn't hear you. Canterbury. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know Russell, yeah. Yeah, I know Russell. Oh, really? Yeah, I know Russell. Good guy. I sure do.
All right, we got a question on any tips on walking a hollow body frog.
You know, I mean, keeping slack in your line is a great deal. We tie a loop knot a lot of times if I want it to walk more. That's probably the easiest way. A lot of them come with really thick skirts, thin the skirt down a little bit. A lot of people will cut one side a little shorter than the other. I got hung on that tree. But I don't do the cutting my skirt down or anything. It's all about action. It's the style of bait too. We have a couple of different ones with this is scum frog here, but you want to keep that slack in your line, and you can see that bait. I don't know if he can see you or not, but it's walking really good back and forth. I don't cut one shorter than the other. What I did do is I thinned it down a little bit. It had a whole bunch more skirt in it, and that's great if you're needing the weight like on top of a mat or something. But if you want it to walk, just thin that down a little bit. And that bait right there, I mean, with the new, I mean, we got I'm trying to think of what it is, a digital image printer, a digital printer now, and we can print any images we want on these frogs. That's a scum frog, snag proof, it's gonna be about the same way. This is a launcher series frog, straight out of the pack. Comes with the owner, red hooks. Everybody wanted those red hooks, but that's the owner. Big gas, super soft body, great hookup ratio. But keeping slack in your line and a downward twitching motion, just real sharp little twitches is really good, but that'll make that bait walk back and forth. And just a lot, I mean, practice with it, biggest thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right.
A little cut back here on the left. Usually you can get a bite in.
All right.
Now that's a 3.5 inch pocket slim sungill flare. You see the orange tips on it. Comes in a 4-inch too. I mean, I sort of like the small bait. A little bitty weight. Pitch it around. Anytime they're small, I mean, it's just, we've had a few buzzbait bites. Sort of makes me want to keep it in my hand, but it's not the perfect time for it. I know that I can get some bites with it, but I'm trying to catch more fish. Don't want to pass many up, and you know, we just passed a boat just now that was throwing a buzzbait, a trick worm. There was 3 of them in the boat, and they're working down through here. So you really, if you're fishing behind people, slow way down.
All right, key thing you need to know when you go to a lake you have not fished before.
You know, I've been asked that a lot over the years, and it's good to know what the forage is, what they're feeding on. If it's shad mainly, or you know, if it's that pocket slim, a little bit. See how that fish is a little bit beat up and stuff. That's, you know, during the spawn, fish just get a little rough on them, but a little better fish than we caught a while ago. Not as good as that buzzbait fish, but that's that little pocket slim. You don't have to, I didn't pitch it long to get a bite, but like I said, I'm fishing behind boats, slow way down, catch a few fish. I mean, that fish could have been a 4-pounder as well as a, you know, 2-pounder. This, a little bit later in the year, gets really thick grass, and I mean, it's really thick enough right now to pick up that swim jig. But, and I can throw it a few times, but I mean, talk about that too as far as technique, but if I want to get a bite, I think I should slow down. I'll pick it up, and I don't know if anybody wants to hear what I got to say about a swim jig, but I'd love to tell them. Wanted to eat it, it'd be fun. biggest mistake that people will make with a swim jig that don't swim it a whole lot is just positioning of the rod. I mean, they'll be pointing it out here and have their hands up high or something, but if you'll keep that, I mean, I learned how to fish a swim jig from a guy, Alan Yarbrough, but if you'll keep that left arm, I mean, I'm right-handed, so I've got my rod in my left hand, keep that rod hand, the hand you got your rod in, tight to your body, elbow down. It gives you all the power in the world, but it also keeps you from taking it away from a fish. When I'm working that bait, my rod's at, you know, from 10 o'clock to 12, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, bouncing my rod tip, getting it through the grass. And if one bites it, all I gotta do is reel down, and I'm setting the hook. All my power's right there because I got my rod, my arm tucked in, elbow against my ribs. It's all wrist is all it is. Soft tip rod works the bait for you. Watch out.
Got me.
I did get a bite.
Let me get out your way.
Now, if that would have been a 4-pounder, it wouldn't have got you. But it's just a little one. But yeah, you see the power there. But you want to keep that elbow tucked in.
I've been ducking from some of the mishook sets, but
Not from fish.
can't move from the fish.
I brought that to the edge of the grass and was sort of talking about it and killed it. My line jumped. I didn't really, it was already 7 or 8 inches deep and I didn't see him, but the line jumped, so I didn't know how big he was, to tell you the truth. You don't know most of the time. Biting a moving bait a little bit. Buzzbait, swim jig.
All right, so that was a swim jig, huh? What's the setup you're just throwing?
That's it's actually the same rod that I got that buzzbait on. This is a 7.6 extra medium heavy. This is my baby. This rod right here is super versatile. 7.3 and the 7.6. People are loving it. Scott Canterbury Signature Series from Halo. Extra medium heavy. 7.6 extra medium heavy. I built that rod a couple of years ago. After fishing, I can't remember, maybe Okeechobee or something. Go down there to swim a jig, and we had the TI series. Had a 7.6 heavy that I flipped with then. And then you had a 7.6 medium heavy. Well, that 7.6 heavy, if I'm fishing a swim jig like right now, super shallow, and a 2 or 3 pounder would get it, it don't matter if he's out there 20 yards. When I'd set the hook, half the time the fish would come out of the water, launch out of the water with that heavy and that fast tip. So I went to the medium heavy and you couldn't drive a hook in them. I've been swimming a jig for 20 years, and I told him, I said, we got to have another rod. I like a 7.6 is what I swim with, what I always do. A lot of people use a 7-footer, 7.3, that's why we got it. And need a 7.6, something between the 7.6 medium and the 7.6 heavy, or medium heavy and heavy, because the medium heavy don't have enough backbone. It's really good for throwing swim baits and stuff, hair jigs, stuff like that out deep, but it doesn't have the backbone to drive a hook in and get a fish out of grass. So they went and designed this 7.6 extra medium heavy, which is dead in between them, a little bit softer tip. I mean, that's a really soft tip for swimming that jig, and that was one thing that I wanted with it. And everybody loved that 7.6, but they wanted a shorter one for a chatterbait and stuff. So we did a 7.3 extra medium heavy. Now then guys are swimming a jig on that 7.3. I still swim mine on a 7.6. If I just want the leverage and the ability, when I do hook a big one, I want to be able to turn him with that bigger rod. Gives you a little bit more, actually a lot more. I gave Clint Nail one of these rods last week, and he's been swimming a 7.3, and he's able to cast an extra, 15 foot or so, 20 foot, because of the extra length of the rod. And that's a big deal too when you're swimming a jig, is being able to cast it a long way. So that's my setup. Now that's a 3/8 ounce dirty jigs. That's Sexy Gunnersville Shad. That's the trailer I was talking about earlier. That's a net bait mini kicking bee. It's not a kicking bee, it's a mini kicking bee. I've actually had that trailer on a 1/4 ounce Canterbury Pro Buzz at Gunnersville in the fall when they're keying on little bitty shad and catching, 3 to 5 pounders and stuff. And an 8 pounder would hit it. I just never have caught one that big on a buzzbait up there, but it would hit it for sure.
Some guy named Wes Logan says 7 foot 6 inches the juice.
It is. I mean, we have people. I got a buddy that's been fishing a 7-footer, and I give him. I mean, he's trying, and he loves the 7.3, but he don't like the 7.6. I told him he needs to go with me, or needs to catch a few bigger fish, and he might have to change his mind. 7.6 is the juice for swimming a jig. Anybody knows it'd be Wes. That other rod I was pitching with, and I pitched that little pocket slim on, it looks, I mean, to people that one looks a little bit funny, but that's a game changer, I think. That's a 7.5 heavy Canterbury series with a 9-inch handle. I mean, there's not another rod on the market like it. If I put it real seat to real seat with that 7.6, dead real seat to real seat, I'm about 1.5 inches longer with the 7.5 than I am a 7.6 because of the handle. You lose that. Most rods have a 12 to 14-inch handle. If you're pitching docks or anything, it gets caught up, hits you in the stomach, hits your rain suit, all kinds. It's always in the way. You're not getting anything out of it except from here up is where you're fighting a fish. And that rod's a parabolic rod. I built it for fishing boat docks and stuff, but people are flipping grass with it, doing a little bit of everything with it. It's a great rod too. We got some really cool stuff. I got a 610 with that little bitty short handle for working those little pop-bars and those jerk baits. I threw a jerk bait on it all winter, and I designed it actually for square billing, and I haven't got to that yet. That's, you know, late summer, early fall, when you're trying to put a bigger square bill, 2.5 and stuff like that around docks in tight places, tight cover, that little short rod. You're a lot more accurate with it than you are with a 7-footer or 7.5-foot rod. Very sparse grass. Now this grass, I mean, I don't know how it's going to grow this year, but it's usually comes way out, really thick. A lot of grass here usually.
See, back to the Wacky.
Back to the Wacky one. There's a bite. Dang, they're not eating it. He wouldn't, I mean, I knew he didn't have it.
So we had some questions about avoiding backlash with that Wacky rig set up with no weight. You got any tips?
I mean, that's a heavy bait. I mean, I'm not trying, you try to overcast it or something. It's not great on a bait caster for skipping, like under docks. A lot of people are wacky worming, they're always skipping a bait, under a bush, under a boat dock, something like that. With a bait caster, it's not great for that. I'm just fishing it around sparse grass. I'm not trying to be, get it into super tight places. If I was, I'd have it on a spinning rod for sure. But I just like to have it on a bait caster, these largemouths up here. I mean, that's 15-pound straight fluorocarbon, tactical fluorocarbon from P-line. And, talk about that line just a little bit. We've said a lot about other lines, but I've got it on, I got 17-pound on a chatterbait. Tactical fluorocarbon. I mean, I know it's tough times right now. Guys need to save some money. This month, for the whole month, tactical fluorocarbon is buy one, get one free at every dealer you can find that's got it open. I mean, participating dealers all over the country. I don't know if it's everyone, but a lot of them. You can find it if you need it. We can find it. I can hook you up with a dealer that's got it for sure. We may have some at the loft. We should have some at Bucks Island at the loft.
Well, I'm sure Dano will drop a note in there if that's something we got in stock.
If they do, they'd have some buy one, get one.
I know we've got some.
Marks Outdoors has got it. There's a lot of places all over the country that's got it. A piece of wood right there might have one.
And again, guys, drop some comments in there. Ask us some questions. We're going to go pick some winners at the end of the day. We got some net bait stuff to give away. A bass boat concept
handle for your step.
Yep, step attachment. That's
Go on my Facebook and look at it. I've got several pictures of it on my Facebook. It's a pretty cool deal.
and then Bass University's doing a 1-year Bass UTV subscription for free.
Yeah, I mean, catch up on that Bass University stuff. There's a lot of great stuff to learn on there. A lot of good anglers. I've been on there a couple of times, not talking about me, but you got a lot of people to learn from on that Bass U. It's always good stuff. I enjoy doing them. You know, I'll sit in there with the guys watching. I like to learn from all the other anglers. If there's anything I can learn too, pick up.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun the last couple of years. We've been doing it in Gadsden with Fish Neely Henry and getting those guys in. I know folks have really enjoyed. That's 2 full days of nothing but learn from the best.
It's been good.
Had a comment about NetBait. Will NetBait ever bring back their tube? It was awesome.
You know, I still have some of them. It was a good tube. It was real durable, and I liked it. One thing about their plastics is they're all pretty durable, and that's a good thing. Not necessarily as good for them because you catch multiple fish on it and they're not selling as many, but it's a good plastic, durable. We're working on a lot of stuff. The tube is not one thing that we're working on right now that I know of. The big deal that we've been pushing is the Pocket Slims, the Pocket Flares. We're working a lot on the salt lick. I've been building a jig trailer, a chunk style trailer for flipping, and we've got a lot of stuff in the works. And Justin is, you know, over all that, and he's got his hands full. I mean, he's actually handling a lot. It's American Bait Works. You can go on there and find everything that they handle: net bait, snag proof, scum frog, halo rods, freedom tackle. There's a lot, but you can check it all out at American Bait Works. We just went 300 or 200 yards in just a few minutes.
That ghost has got us moving.
3.5 right now. It needs a new prop.
Because you've been fishing shallow.
I've been fishing shallow. I wear a prop out pretty much about twice a year. I haven't broke them or nothing. You just wear the edges down. They're not sharp. They don't cut the water near as much. You lose a little bit of that speed. How's it going? Have a good one. Yes, sir. This little pocket here is, I'm thinking it might have some clear water in it. There's actually a big beaver dam in the back of this cut. May go back there. We probably won't go back. It gets pretty shallow. When the water's full, I always fish that beaver dam in the very back, but and it's usually really clean because the water coming through that beaver dam will be real clean water, but it's just as dirty here as it is everywhere else.
Well, speaking of that, we got a question on colors for dirty water.
Yeah. You know, that dirty water bothers you more than it does the fish. They adapt to it pretty good. The number one go-to color, if it's real muddy, this is just a good stain for Neely Henry. It's not real muddy, but you can't see, 5 inches. Black and blue, a dark color, black and blue. I got a black toad on that buzzbait. Something that they can really key in on. Solid colors when it's dirty. Translucent colors when it's not. It's clearer water, but those solid colors. The fish you catch in dirty water are a pale white a lot of times. So you would think, all the shad are super white. You would think that whites are good, and it is a good bait, but I like the darker baits when it's dirty. I still match. I still do a lot of mine green pumpkins and stuff. When I'm flipping a jig on certain lakes, if it's dark rocks, I use a darker jig. If it's a sandy bottom, I use a lighter jig. And I do a lot of that by color of the terrain. A crawfish blends in. His colors will actually change, and it blends in for his protection. I mean, that's Mother Nature's way of taking care of them. And I try to do the same thing with my jig, because you're trying to trick a bass. It's a pretty smart animal, pretty smart creature.
Well, Sergeant Hurd, we will be ready for you. I got a comment. Just put everything Scott talked about today in my cart at the Loft Tackle Shop. I will be there to purchase it at 1 p.m.
Awesome.
We will be ready for you. He beat me back to the loft when we got off the water last week. So I think he's going to do that again this week. And he's having some success. So
we can hook you up. I mean, I know we don't have them in the loft yet with some of these Canterbury Signature Series rods too, if you're in the market. We're gonna get them in there. When things get more rolling again, we're definitely gonna get them in there. But so I know some stores pretty close that's got them already. The Tackle Box has them. Lucky's has a few. Mark's Outdoors had a bunch, and they're selling pretty good. They're selling them every day. So, but we're ordering new ones every day too. We got some. We got plenty in right now, and got more coming.
All right, we had a question about sunglasses.
Yeah.
What sunglasses do you prefer, and why? Colors of lenses, all that kind of good stuff.
You know, I use Costas. I think it's probably the best out there. I mean, I've tried a bunch of different ones. A really good polarized sunglasses is key to fishing all year long. I just put that right over across there. All year long. And I use Costas. I wear a Jose. I've got a pair of fantails, but the Jose is the frames I wear most of the time. And this is my #1 glass that I wear over anything is a Silver Sunrise. It was new 2 years ago, I think, and it's really bright. Days like today when it's really cloudy, it's really, really good. I use the green lens, which is an amber. It's a green mirror amber lens if it's more sun out and brighter days, but that's the two that I carry. I got the other pair in the boat here, and either Silver Sunrise or the green mirror, which is an amber lens, is my go-to. I have a pair of blue, which is the blue mirror is a gray lens. If I go deep sea fishing or something and it's really, really bright, I'll wear those, but most of the time it's Silver Sunrise or that green mirror.
We got a comment says, let's get a repeat of that Angler of the Year.
Well, we got to get back to fishing. I'd love that. You know, I was super, super blessed last year to be able to pull it together all year long, not just one tournament, but it was great all year. I had a couple of a little bit slower tournaments, but I got off to a better start this year than I had last year. Just got to keep that momentum going. That's one thing you see. How shallow it is. I kicked up a bunch of mud. You can see the clear water on the other side of the pond, the beaver dam. It's crystal clear and it's not coming through. But this pocket's usually clean. Last year we were talking about that AOY was just great. I got off to a really good start this year, and now we've had a break. I mean, we haven't had a tournament in a while, and you know, I'm staying on the water, staying sharp, just fishing. I think that's one thing that's super important is being able to stay on the water, trying to make those good decisions. I mean, we got great anglers. I mean, we got great anglers in the state here, but it's more about capitalizing on the opportunities you get when you get a bite, not losing them, and making great decisions on the water. I mean, it's not all about who had the most skill or talent or anything like that. It's who makes the best decisions, is smartest, and most efficient with their fishing time. And we got, you know, 86 or so, 86 of the best anglers in the world on the Elite Series, and you know, it's tough. I mean, it's not easy to do, but it would be nice to try to hold that title up, hold that trophy up again.
So we talked some when we were out here with Matt about these new FXRs.
Yeah,
and
my boat. You know, I started my career in a Skeeter. 2008, I was running Skeeter in 7, 8, 9, and maybe 10. And at FLW, I ended up having to make some changes. Get back into a Skeeter last year with Bucks Island, and you know that FX was, you know, after not running one for a while, man, it was a welcome change to get back in a Skeeter, and I had a blast. Best boat I'd fished out of ever. And then they come out with a FXR this year. It's even better. I mean, you know, I ran a 21 last year, and the main reason I did that was the space on the front deck. You know, I like a 20 because they're usually 3 or 4 miles an hour faster, easier to get into tight places, and I like a 20. But that boat was just a little bit narrow to me, the FX on the front, after being in those big Rangers. And then this year, we're 7 inches at rod strap to rod strap wider in the FXR than the FX was last year. And I went back to a 20, and it's like having a little sports car again. I love it. In love with this boat. I need to get back in some more tournaments with it. You know, with that show on the back, really. It's a great combo. One of the, I mean, I think it's the best combo on the market. And you know, you can't win titles without having great equipment and having no worries, being able to do whatever you need to do while you're on the water. If it's 11 o'clock and I want to crank up and go 40 miles up the river right quick to fish 3 or 4 places, I don't have to worry about it. The ride of these, you know, I didn't think they could make it any better than that FX, but the ride on these, you got a little more bow lift and just a softer ride than the FX was actually, and the FX is a great boat. I mean, I ran a ZX 225 back in the day, and those were great boats. I love riding in that boat, but this is, I mean, I'll be running this FXR as long as they'll let me.
You got some pretty good conditions there in Guntersville at the Classic, right?
Yeah, you get some.
Put it through the paces.
We did. You know, last year you can go back and look at some of that stuff. I mean, St. Clair and St. Lawrence, and we went to some big waters. Winyah Bay. I mean, just look at Winyah Bay's tournament. I'm running an FX 21, and I'm going 100 miles one way, 115 miles probably one way. And then running back, you know, so it's a lot of time on the water, and you got to have great equipment to do that. We're gonna make a move. We got to get out of here, get away from some boats. 4 or 5 minutes. 4 minutes, guys. Stay with us.
All right, guys. Now's a great time to throw your comments in. We're gonna fire up the old Yamaha.
Jack right up a little bit. Real deep.
Didn't know we were going to be doing a virtual demo ride of the old FXR20.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about these boats. You can run, 70, I'm in the low 70s, and sometimes I get 73, 74 miles an hour. But when you run them wide open, if you're going straight, you don't even have to worry about driving. You don't have to drive it. That's the longest run we're making.
All right. All right, so what are we thinking about?
Well, I'm not going to tie another one on. I had that pocket slam, but I'll pitch that wacky worm around for a minute. I was going to pitch that sock pile. I may have to rig it back up.
All right, well, we can give a little rigging lesson.
You got 40 minutes. I'm going to be fishing.
We are out on Neely Henry, Andrew.
Grass. Yeah, it's thin. Not much. Not much grass. If I fish a tournament, Neely Henry, we're not ever home this time of year. We're always on the road, but normally this grass is a lot thicker, and I'd be swimming a jig through it. I did catch one swimming a jig, but I'd be swimming a jig in thick grass or flipping if there's a thick place in the grass. And it's just so sparse. There's not much of it. And fish are actually, they're spawning. A lot of fish are spawning at the edge of that grass, and I just decided to slow down today. I can go through here and fish 5 times the amount of places with a swim jig, and you'll get some bites, but I think you're better off slow way down during the spawn, try to pick apart a few places that you know, especially when you don't have a whole lot of time to fish. So we're just covering water. Right now I'm throwing a wacky worm. Dano's not with us.
We lost Dano.
Where'd he go?
I don't know.
I'll give it a little bit of action because of that, the water being a little bit dirty. That rain we had a couple of nights, 2 nights ago now. It looks like it stained this water up. I went over the bridge yesterday, and you could see the mud line about 2 miles on up the river, up the creek there, and it's worked its way down. I'll swim a jig through that creek spot right there in just a second.
All right.
Should be one there.
All right, getting some questions on the Wacky rig setup you got again. So that's no weight.
No weight. 6-inch Wacky worm, and just pitching it around. That's a 3/0 hook with a little fiber weed guard because of the grass. We talked about it earlier, and I had. Oh, see how that was a perfect example, and I was thinking about saying it. Got my trailer, but I had my rod out, and I talked about that earlier about keeping your arm back. I had my rod out, and I didn't have anywhere to go to keep from taking it away from that fish. 2.5 pounder. It wasn't a real big one, but I'd still like to have caught it. Got my trailer. Yeah. Right where I had just fished a Wacky worm too. That's what was weird. I might just need to swim a jig. There's only one little thick spot on that whole little area. Usually a lot. And I'm threading that up on, just go straight, come out the middle, get it over the keeper, and then you want, that's good. As long as it's good and straight, that's all I'm doing. My bad. I was just fixing to talk about not getting out. I dang had my arm extended instead of back, and I didn't have anywhere to go. That fish hit it going the other way. Why he didn't bite that thing?
Question about, would you fish a crankbait?
I like fishing a crankbait, but not in grass. This is willow grass, what we have on Lay Lake.
Neely Henry.
Neely Henry. I'm sorry, Coosa River.
You've been all over the place.
I've been everywhere, and it's gets to me after a while. But I don't throw a crankbait in the grass itself. You know, fish will. A lot of times in the fall, they'll be schooling around the outside edge, and we'll fish like a little B1. A little small bait that doesn't run, you know, be super shallow and catch them that way. But I don't fish a crankbait. Now, if I was spot fishing out on rocks, sure, I'd throw a crankbait some, but not doing this style of fishing. Right on top of it. What's that?
How do you keep the jig clean when fishing in there in the grass?
Oh, I mean, you know, a pointed head swim jig, dirty jigs. And this is stalk grass. It doesn't have like slime in it or anything. Good weed guard. It just comes right through. I talked about it a little bit earlier. But you want to pop that rod, keep your elbow back. That was my fault, I mean, but you want to pop that rod when it got caught on a stalk. I just want to work it right through there, pop it right over it. That's all you do. Swimming a jig, and you're going to get reaction bites when it breaks loose from that a lot of times. A lot of times it'll actually be hung on a little twig, and you'll be shaking it, and a big one will come get it for you and take it off there. You're just trying to you're trying to make him react to something. I mean, he thinks it's a shad, or a lot of times they think it's, you know, if you're up on top like that, a little brim or anything. You've been fishing grass before, a mat, and have a fish knock a shad or a brim up on top of that, frog, anything. So, you know, I fish it in lily pads. I caught a big one down at St. John's this year on the day 2 or day 3 of that tournament on a swim jig and some pads. So you just gotta. We don't have a problem keeping it, you know, from catching stuff. I don't ever get, you know, in willow grass, you don't hardly ever have any problems with it getting stuff on it. You don't want it, you want braid. I wish you could get hung. You want braid because if it's real stalky and real thick places, a lot of time your hook will hang, the weed guard will hang. If you got fluorocarbon or monofilament, you'll pull and pull, and that stretches that line. When it comes loose, it's gonna come shooting back out of there. It might only go 6 foot, it might come all the way to the boat. With braided line, I can get it hung right in the middle of the thickest place up there, a mat, and sit there and shake it, it won't come loose, and my hook will have a stalk. You just point it at it and pull it, you know, and your bait will go 4 inches, and that'll get a reaction bite a lot of times rather than just working it over the top. That little quick twitch will get a good reaction bite a lot of times. Fish are definitely in this grass. If you want to run around there, just go hit another little spot right there.
All right.
It's gonna be just, we're not going but a quarter of a mile. Big grass mat over there, but there's a boat on it.
Surprised you don't want to just let the ghost get us over there.
I'm running out of time. I might just swing a jig. Usually, there's not much right now. One of the best things that Ghost has, I think a lot of trolling motors had it. Everybody, the cords are long, but they built a little hook here. You hook that in, and I mean, it just helps you deploy that trolling motor really easy into the water. You don't have to fight it.
How many casts do you normally make at a piece of isolated cover with a swim jig?
You know, during the spawn, multiple casts are really good. I won't make too many. I mean, 2 or 3, one on each side most of the time. I lay down a log. If there's a log coming through the grass, I usually try to hit both sides of it, come all the way down it. But you know, most of the time that swim jig, you're looking for active fish. You're trying to cover water more than you are as far as pitching or flipping or something. You know, in the fall is another time I've seen where multiple casts really pay off. There's a lot of tournaments won in the fall. Fish have been beat up on all year, and they'll be keyed in a lot of times on little bitty bait in the fall, little shad or something. It may be a log, and you make 4 casts down the same log and catch one, and that's hard to do. But if you can ever figure that out, you can win a lot of tournaments, go right behind people and catch them, because most people are moving down the bank pretty fast. That grass has no water on it. There'll be some right up inside this pocket that's got a little bit. That grass hasn't, 4 inches. With the water down. If we had normal conditions, it would be fine. Still big one there.
We got a comment. I hear you talk about the importance of fishing single hook baits in the elites versus crankbaits. Can you elaborate on that, please?
You know, I love fishing crankbaits, and this year you're going to see more of that throughout the elites, not just me. But we don't have nets, and you know, crankbaits are great summertime. Big crankbaits are great summertime catchers. Small crankbaits are, like, I throw a lot of balsa baits Bagley, a lot of square bills, a lot of that kind of stuff, flat-sided crankbaits, and a lot of that is springtime, pre-spawn, rocky impoundments, and then again in the fall. Not necessarily summertime, early fall, late summer, that square billing comes into play a lot, and we're done. We don't fish that time of year. And then in the springtime when we're fishing, we're usually on a grass lake or dead in the middle of a spawn, and you don't catch them cranking really good when the spawn's going on. You're going to see a lot of differences this year because we're going to fish in the fall. We're going to fish up maybe into December, and I don't know yet, but we're going to get our tournaments in on the elite side, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot different, but it's going to be really exciting to see how people actually catch them. I mean, fall fishing is junk fishing 101 to me. It's one of my favorite times of the year to fish. It's junk fishing, it's covering a lot of water, and it's catching fish, actually fishing, old school fishing. The way the electronics have changed the game now, okay? Lowrance, everybody's got all this new imaging. Lowrance has live sight out in front of the boat. We got the best down imaging there is, side imaging. When the fish move out off the bank on the structure, a lot of practice is 80% idling around finding schools of fish. Idling around, finding exactly the way they're set up, mark it on your GPS, you go back, and it's pretty easy to catch them once you find them, okay? In the fall, when fish are shallow, you can't do that. You got to find them fishing. It's more of a fishing tournament, fishing to find them. It's not a going out and using who's the best with their electronics and who has the best spot in the fall and winter as it is. You know, I mean, and that's great. I mean, fishing's great. Technology has changed the game a bunch. Fishermen have gotten better, smarter over the years, and you know, it has a lot to do with the technology of the electronics that we have nowadays.
All right, tips on fishing post front conditions when the pressure is high.
Flip. Yeah, if you ever notice it, I fished with some great fishermen over the years. Post frontal, the second day after a front is the toughest fishing areas. High pressure is really, really bad. You'll see no clouds, bluebird skies, and you pay attention in every piece of trash you see on the lake, every stick you see, every piece of pine straw, everything you see is standing straight up and down. It's not laying flat on top of the water, it's standing up, and that's high pressure is what that is. And you got to slow down and flip and put it right on their nose. You're not getting many reaction bites during that, so it's a lot about, I mean, that's when I like post frontal because I like to flip and fish shallow and put my bait in places that a lot of people don't. So it's more about slowing down and putting it right on their nose. And if you're in a spotted bass lake, it's a lot about, you know, downsizing your baits too.
What do we get?
He likes that Buzzbait, Canterbury Pro Buzz, right through the nose. You see, they get that bait really good with no skirt on it. Real fat, healthy fish. That fish is probably pre-spawn. Moving in, I mean, it's super fat, full of eggs right there. I mean, that fat little chunk, 2 pound, 2 1/4, maybe 2 pounder anyhow.
All right. Is the loft at Bucks Island open? Yes, we are. We're bringing stuff to the gate, and we're getting folks in onesie twosies if you really want to look at stuff. We've also got everything online. You can go, there's a big tackle button on the menu on our website, or you can go straight to shopbucksisland.com, and we've got a bunch of stuff over there. But yeah, we've had some folks coming in, and I know we already got one that says he's going to come buy a bag full of all the stuff we're using today, so that's awesome.
I was really thinking I was going to have to slow down. I've caught some fish slow today, but thinking about that Wacky one, if you can watch it, I mean, I've had 3 or 4 bites on that buzzbait. I caught one on the 3rd cast right before we started. But if you watch that buzzbait. On days when you throw that buzzbait, we got super clouds, low pressure. It's leaving a bubble trail from the second it hits the water. I mean, I'll make 10 more casts and you can see exactly where I threw that last one. So if you're ever watching that, you can see that bubble trail, man, that's a perfect buzzbait days. And it changes. I mean, you come back tomorrow or you go to a different section of the lake and you may not see that. But when it's leaving that bubble trail, you need to keep it in your hand. It's 11:40, middle of the day. No, I mean, we don't have much wind, nothing, and throwing a buzzbait, catching them. I mean, it's pretty good times. I mean, there's not much better than seeing one blow up on a buzzbait. So, you know, and everybody, a lot of people used to always just go out and throw a buzzbait for 30 or 40 minutes in the morning and put it down. But keep it in your hand a lot more. I'll throw it all day.
9 minutes. He wants to wrap it up. We'll do a...
My goodness. Make 2 more bites.
So here's a good question. On tournament days, what do you eat and drink?
You know, I've got to where I drink water 90% of the time. I will drink protein shake. I keep, there's probably 1 or 2 in that cooler right now. Just something that's got some calories in it and give you a little boost to pick up during the day. But I drink water. I use a lot of, I don't even know what it's called. I got it back there, little flavors that you can put in it. And some of them have vitamins in them. Some of them are for energy. Eating, I try to eat breakfast. I mean, if I can eat a good breakfast, I'm pretty good all day. Like I say, maybe have that protein shake. Usually got a bag of almonds in the boat. It's not junk food for me. I mean, might tell you different right now. Dixie and Taylor might tell you different. I'm a junk food. Well, since this quarantine, it seems like Taylor's been making cakes. But, pretty grass. But, I try to eat something like, you know, something a little bit healthy while I'm fishing. Granola bars I take. Those kind bars that are nuts and some salt in them, something, not just something healthy. If it gets really hot, I usually carry 2 or 3 Gatorades with me. This is usually a big grass mat, like right from this dock right around, and not much there right now.
Any advice for an angler looking to fish a full tournament trail for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I remember fishing, you know, I started out fishing club tournaments and local events all over the Coosa River, but then joined into, you know, I think the first big tournament I fished was probably a federation, you know, a bass event, and then I fished a bunch of BFLs. Worked my way all the way through the ranks of the BFLs, then the Costas, which was the Strand series back then, up to the tour level. And just spend it, I mean, and you can't, I mean, I had a full-time job, working all the time. You can't just be out there all the time, but spend as much time on the water as you can. There's nothing beats, we talked about Bass U, we talked about watching videos. I'm gonna post some stuff, little shad spawn activity and stuff, and we talk about all that, and it's great to watch it, but nothing beats time on the water. It's great to catch up and get ideas by watching stuff, but nothing beats time on the water, ever. That grass is very, I mean, nothing there hardly. There's one of them. There's one of them we needed. Buzzbait is showing out
All right.
today. That's a good healthy fish. Really good chunk right there. I got time to get one more. And
All
I don't
right.
know if you was watching that, but I was just real quick little twitches with my reel handle. A lot of times that triggers that bite and get you a few more bites in a day. 5 minutes. I got one more in me. Got one more in me.
So we started with the buzzbait. We're going to end with the buzzbait.
I never thought about it was going to be the deal today, but it is the deal. And I'm just pushing it completely up over that body. And that's it. Straight on. Ready to go.
Dustin says, thanks for the tips, guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us. This has been a fun day out here on Neely. Can't tell whether it wants to rain or not.
We got 4 more minutes. My blade. Look at that right there. Golly. Something big just took off over there. My blade was messed up. I don't know why it done that. Line got all around it. May not have been a bass. It was big. Right there. My boy's having fun. Hey. We should have definitely covered a lot more water had I just kept this in my hand. And the way they're biting it, I mean, it's what we should have been doing, obviously.
2 minutes.
Give me one. I like the last cast stuff, really. I like to bring it down to the wire. If I don't back up. I don't know where it done it. Not it. Oh, yeah. It's a knot down in, like a real knot.
Uh-oh.
That guy. I don't know how it done that. I'm not even gonna get the cast. Get to hurry. That little brush pile right back there is gonna have one. I'm gonna go overtime. Still got 2 minutes.
Well, we can't really wrap up until Dano catches up with us.
Huh? Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't know we had to catch up.
I'm just saying, you keep fishing until he catches up.
It doesn't matter. We'll fish. There's another 30 minutes. That was fun. Caught a few. Hold down.
We're gonna bump.
I see see that. It's coming in hot, wasn't it?
The poles didn't go down. It's not like we don't scuff wraps anyway, is it?
Yeah.
I would say this, those dirty jigs are tough.
Huh?
I just rolled over your jig.
You not cut some of the skirt off of it.
I did?
Yeah, look at it. It just felt some of it.
Efficiency.
That's right.
All right, I'm gonna turn this thing off. So, started out this morning, you wouldn't have thought a buzzbait would have been the deal, huh?
I didn't think it would have been the deal today. I really thought fish would more in the spawn mood than they are and wouldn't bite it. But with this overcast skies and the pressure must just be just right for it. They bit it better than just about anything. I mean, had swim jig bites too. I missed one pretty good one a while ago on it. Well, I mean, 2.5 pounder a while ago on it.
So I noticed that you did miss a few. I mean, you caught plenty, but you did miss a few. Is that the post front?
You know what gets me is
mood?
I only missed one on a moving bait. I missed 2 or 3 on a wacky worm, and those are the ones you never miss hardly. So it had to do. Those could have been spawning fish.
Yeah.
That are just not eating the bait, you know, carrying it out of the bed or something, and that could have been definitely the deal with those. And seems like the moving baits, they pretty much got it most of the time. I was out of position on one swim jig fish, the reason I missed him. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Is this what you would have started the day doing? How would you have gone about today, having last night in your mind, just thinking about, okay, we had storm front yesterday.
Yeah.
How would you have started today?
I mean, early morning, I'm going to be throwing a buzzbait, chatterbait, or a spinnerbait, or a swim jig. Now, the grass is not really fixed swim jig fish. We can catch a few doing it, but I'm going to be fishing a moving bait starting out for sure. When we start at 10 o'clock and you think you don't have time, you're going to try to just catch 1 or 2 fish. I tried to slow down. It made me fish a little different rather than just go out and start like it was morning time and I'm fishing all day.
More of the time thing that you're starting at 10 o'clock.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered with that either. If I had 8 hours, I'd probably, even if I started at 10 o'clock, I'd have started with a moving bait, trying to cover a bunch of water. But only having 2 hours, I think I'm just going to slow down and pick a place apart, try to catch 1 or 2.
Typically, you're a moving bait fisherman, and you're right. You know, I heard you mention earlier in the broadcast that my first time covering you was an FLW Tour event at Smith Lake in 2008. It was your second tournament, and what was remarkable, remembering it, was I hadn't seen people use a buzzbait as a search bait during bedfish time because you were doing both.
Right.
And I even remember at one point you were going through a pocket and you had your 1 foot on the bracket and you were 1 foot on the trolling motor and you'd see a fish. Now power poles weren't as big of a thing then, but you'd see a fish and you'd stop the trolling motor and you'd kind of just stand up on it. It was
and you talked about that, but I love this Ghost. The bracket is flat, it's durable. I mean, there's been times this year I just stand up here on top of my bracket looking. I'm vertically challenged a little bit. The higher you get, the better you can see a sight fish. So I like to get up on anything I can.
So what is it about the buzzbait this time of the year when the fish are going into the spawn or around the spawn? What is it?
You know, as soon as the best time I think, all times are good for a buzzbait. But as soon as fish make a push shallow, those first few warm days before they spawn, when they spawn, in the middle of the spawning activity is not the best time. I think nobody knew that fish were spawning at that Smith Lake tournament. During practice, nobody really see them. Nobody was on that deal as far as sight fishing. I sort of figured it out because I made a bad cast, broke a bait, and said, heck, let's just go shallow. And that's that way, that worked out. I mean, that was 2008 when Dixie had her problems with catcher and everything. But those fish were moving up to spawn, and they're up there. They're going to get them a big, easy meal. They're fixing to be sitting on a bed for days without even feeding. You know, if something comes by, they'll run it off, chase it. And that's a stressful time for them. As soon as they get through spawning, they're wanting to put their feed bags on, get healthy again. So any of those pre-spawn or any of those ones that have already spawned and laying in the shade, I caught some big ones under docks in that tournament for Smith Lake, throwing a buzzbait. around that shade. And any of those lazy fish trying to get an easy meal, that slow buzzbait right over the top, as slow as you can keep it on top, gets a lot of good bites this time of year.
When do you go toad on that buzz? When do you go swim bait? Because I know you mentioned both.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm fishing spotted bass, such as Logan Martin seawalls in September and October, anywhere that is primarily spotted bass or really, I can't say really clear water, but Lake Martin's got a lot of spots and largemouth, and it's clear water, and we throw a little swim bait, a little spanky on it. Spots don't like the toad as much as they do something streamlined like a shad, a small bait fish. The bait profile coming over their head is just that different streamline.
Okay, so say you got largemouth in the shad spawn. We had somebody ask about that. Is that a time you'll go to their largemouth now in the grass? Will you go to that swim bait, or will you just go to a white toad?
A white toad. If I'm all largemouth, it's a white toad. I want white to imitate the shad, but I want that bigger profile for something they can really key in on, and largemouths have no problem getting it all in their mouth. I mean, that's the deal with the plastics over a skirt, is the hookup ratio. When they hit a skirt, a lot of times there's nothing for them to get that suction on to bring the bait into their mouth.
Okay.
You get a lot of blow-ups that fish miss it and stuff like that. It's a little more finessey. You can trim your skirts down, you can make them really small and stuff. And I fish that a lot in the hot summer. But springtime and fall, I throw plastic toad or a bait fish or a swim bait on it all the time, just about all the time.
Well, wrap it up. What do you think? I mean, overall, we've put 3 of you guys now, our elite team members, we put 3 of you guys through, put you under the pressure. You got 2 hours. Show us what you can do, and you've all been successful. You've caught fish.
Yeah.
I think Wes probably had the toughest conditions.
Yeah, no doubt.
But both you and Matt were post front, but just kind of wrap the whole thing up.
You know, I mean, this is post frontal, but we got good cloud cover today. I got pretty good conditions for a moving bait. The only thing that hurts down on this end of the lake is the water level.
Right.
If we didn't have the big rains, we'd have a little bit cleaner water. The dirty water's got the fish up there shallow, which helps. But the water being down, which it was full last week, the water going back down has those fish pulled out away from a lot of stuff. And they get a little bit finicky, a little bit shy this time of year. But it's been good. It's fun. I hope we can do it again. I'd do it anytime for Bucks Island. I mean, y'all do everything in the world for me, and I appreciate it. But I enjoyed it. I hope everybody that got to watch it maybe learned a little bit and enjoyed it as well. It's been a blast.
Well, I think we're planning on doing a little bit more of this. You know, it showed us some things that how much engaging and having the blessing of having guys like you and Matt and Wes around, and even Tracy Robinson and some other guys that are willing to do this kind of stuff. It really helps us do stuff for the customers, and I think we're planning on kind of doing that and trying to improve on some of the technological things. Yeah, but, no,
it's been good. I mean, I think you got a great thing going.
We'll keep looking at doing this kind of stuff. Again, NetBait, Walt, Val over there at NetBait, American Bait Works in general. Thank you guys for contributing. We'll get some drawings done. Angelo at Bass Boat Concepts, that step's pretty cool, guys. You know, you Skeeter owners that got the steps on your trailer, this gives you the handle and everything. It's pretty cool. We're giving one of those away. Thank you again, Angelo. And then Justin Kimmel, Bass University, kicking in a year's worth of Bass UTV. That's pretty cool. You can learn a bunch by doing that, and to have a $150 value on that kind of thing, or whatever that ends up running, is pretty cool. But thank you mostly to all of you guys that tune in to watch us playing around. I mean, this is work for us. Michael's probably working the hardest of all of them holding that stupid camera. But it's work, but it's something we love, and we love bringing this stuff to you. Again, guys, be safe out there. Get out, enjoy nature, enjoy the fishing. Call us. We're here to help, service. If you're in the market for a boat, obviously we got it, but we're there in the loft. We're happy to help you figure it out. And if we don't got the information, we'll call these guys and get it done. But thanks for spending some time with us.
Don't do your videos around a loud barking dog.
That's all right.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll get the winners announced later this afternoon. Appreciate it, guys.